Hello, everyone. Love and blessings. Welcome to yet another episode of Dragonfly Heart Medicine Radio. I'm your host, Kristen, Reiki Master Teacher, Plant Medicine Integrator, and high school science teacher on the side as well. So I wear many hats, and one of them is also doing this podcast. I love interviewing like-minded people. I love spreading the word about awakening and providing support for people wherever they are in their spiritual journey. And I know I say this every time, but I'm excited. Today, I have one of my dear friends and mentors. I met her, I don't know exactly how long ago, but it's been
In a
several
few
years.
years. In a few years.
Yeah, and I've enjoyed co-journeying with her and seeing her do her thing. And she also does channeling, she does some spiritual coaching. So I've gone to her for several different reasons before. And it's always interesting and helpful, whatever information that comes through for her. So her name is Stephanie. And it's
Hello.
funny because the last episode, I had another friend by the name of Stephanie on the show. So apparently I really like people named Stephanie.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Well, thank you for having me, and I'm glad to be on the show and share my knowledge and my skill and my story about how I got here and all of that.
Yeah. So channeling is a term I feel like that's kind of talked about a lot, but nobody really fully explains what that is. So you are channeling, you do channel. So what kind of is like your definition of channeling, and how may it be a little bit different the way that you do it from what other people might do?
So there's basically two different types of channeling when you talk about bringing in energies from other realms, or if you're talking about a lot of people will channel the angels and get messages from like Archangel Michael, that kind of a thing. And you can either be an unconscious channel or a conscious channel. And so the difference is Edgar Casey was unconscious. When he would go and get information, he would go completely into a different state of consciousness, and the being would come through. And then when the being left, he had zero memory of what was said. But I am much more of a conscious channel, as in I'm very well aware of what Arya is saying when she comes through. But it's kind of like a dream. An hour later, it's all gone. I don't really hold on to it per se.
Right. And that makes sense. I feel like I'm more of a conscious channel. I'm aware during the whole thing and I can remember it, but a few hours later, yeah, it seems kind of like maybe it happened, maybe it didn't. So, yeah, I can relate to that. And so how did you meet the being that you channel mostly, Arya?
Okay, so and then also one other thing to talk about is a trans channel, which Arya is big about, means that I'm able to get up and walk around and move while I'm channeling her. And so to her, there's a big difference between if you're a trans channel, can get up and walk around, or you're just always sitting. I think it's just a higher level skill if you can get up and walk around. And in the beginning, first couple of years, I never got up and walked around, but I've channeled her now for probably close to 15 years. And um, so I have to go back a little bit. So I almost died from celiac back in 2006. And at that time, I was teaching nonverbal autistic kids, and they all started talking to me telepathically in my class. And so that was my sudden Kundalini awakening. And then I found a mentor named Sunny who was able to help me develop all my skills. And about a year into training with her, and I'd started doing my life coaching business and things of that nature, she had a party. And so I went to the party, and there was a woman was there named Carol. And we were all laughing and playing around and, practicing. And there was a portal in this wall, and we were like talking to spirits and stuff like that. And she said, wouldn't it be great to talk to an extraterrestrial from another planet? And I said, sure, Carol, whatever. And she stood up at this party and she pointed to the heavens and she said, hey, any of you friendly ETs that want to come on down, you just come on down. We'd love to talk to you. And in my head, I saw a chalkboard, and they wrote out the word Arcturian, Arcturian. And I'd never heard of the star system, didn't know they were loving beings here to help us with evolution of consciousness. So the first night, Sunny channeled them and brought through Arya, the being. It's a feminine energy named Arya she's kind of like a wise grandmother. And I channeled her. And when I do it, when you go into state, your voice changes. So I have you've heard it. It's like a British South African accent. These days, it's very more British posh, actually. So the
Okay.
vocal register changes when you channel. And so Sunny did it the first night. And then they said, well, Sunny's not the right link and it's going to be you. And I was like, oh no. And, but I love it. And to me, it's just natural. It's like being able to sit down at a piano and just play.
Yeah, so it comes that easily for you. And
Right.
so, how did you discern that, the being that you were channeling was actually like good and benevolent versus, something that was maybe not so nice?
So just like an airplane pilot, has a checklist, I had learned from my mentor that you go through your checklist and you open space. And back in those days, I would always open space and set the space. And then if it didn't feel right, if it didn't sound right,
Mm.
I wouldn't do it. And in the beginning, I didn't channel Arya right away. Actually, I haven't mentioned that before. I didn't channel Arya right away. I wanted to be safer, and I channeled like Archangel Michael. Because I was
Mm.
like, okay, if I go angelic, and then I went from Michael to doing
Okay.
Arya, because I wanted to have that like extra layer of protection. And that's an important point to make. If you look on my website, there's actually a channeling checklist to
Mm.
know the difference between something that might be negative or something that might be positive. And I did one time hit a negative energy and I stopped for 4 months. I didn't channel at all. And then I had gone up to Omega Institute and I had gone to take a class with Ricky and Michael Beckwith, and they were in The Secret. And so
Mm.
uh, they were friends with Esther Hicks. And we were sitting on the porch eating ice cream. I was sitting on the porch with Ricky. And I said, I am never channeling again. And she started laughing as hard as she could. And she said, oh, sweetheart, I've sat with Esther. You've been tapped in the game. I take one look at you and tell you that you're a channel. She says, you will channel again.
Mm.
And about a month later, a friend had a catastrophe and really wanted to talk to Arya. And I started doing it again. And so I have a new way that I set space. So like now I just will say I intend Arya, but then at the end, you've heard me do this big count back because the issue I had isn't getting in the energy is easy, right? Coming back into my body was hard, right? Because it's, how that energy is, it's very light. And so, saying the names of my children and my grandson helps like bring me back in. So that's kind of how I do it.
And I love that. I love that you kind of talked about having a checklist and then, we'll have, the link to your website and stuff like that. So anybody who's interested in channeling or anybody who thinks that they may be a channel can use that checklist. And I know it was really helpful for me because in the beginning stages, I was like, not exactly 100% sure what I was doing. And I, some of the energies that were coming through were, they weren't like terrible, but they weren't like the best energies either. And so I think that checklist really helped me. And then I love how you talk about like, opening the space, but then also remembering to close and kind of ground back in on being fully present in your body, whatever that may look like for you. For you, it's saying the names of your children. And I think it's funny that you went through this phase where you're like, you know what, I'm done. I'm not going to do this anymore. But Spirit had other plans. It was like, nope, you're going to be channeling more. And I know you've done lots of events, like you've done in-person events, you've done some Zoom things.
Yeah, I have a group that I meet with every 2 to 3 weeks that's very popular and it's very reasonably priced. It's $21 and it's usually an hour and a half to 2 hours. And you can just come and ask Arya anything. And that's been really popular. And then I used to do, BMSE, Body, Mind, Spirit Expo before COVID. And I would channel Arya at large events and I've traveled the country and then I have private clients. And so, she also always has this introductory thing that 20 minutes, $40, just if you just want to meet her and have the experience. And that's also worked out well for people because, it's a price point most people can handle. And
right. And sometimes the first time you're in the presence of you while you're channeling with Arya, if you're not used to those energies, it can be a little like
intense.
a little whirlwind, a little intense. I remember the very first time I came to see you channel in person, I sat right next to you and I just got really hot. And it was
the energies
I was just like, oh, this energy.
Yeah, it can get depending on who's in the room and she's she's like when you say she's like a wise grandmother, I think she's kind of like a wise grandmother.
Yeah, and she has, I love that she's honest and she's real. She tells you like it is, but she's also like humorous and she can be comical sometimes too. So I like all the different sides of Arya. And so
when she comes in, ask her the first joke she told. There was a time when she is trying to understand American humor. And so ask her about the joke. That's funny.
Will do. Yeah. So right now you have that group that you meet, you know, every few weeks for, and that's kind of what you're doing. And then you're doing some like private one-on-one channelings as well.
You can do channeling, private one-on-one, and then I'm known a lot for intuitive life coaching, which I have life coaching packages, and you can go from where you are to where I take you from where you are to where you'd like to be, and we create the plan. And then I was trained by Tony Stockwell, who's the best known medium in England. And I am a medium, and I do that. It's just not, I don't do that as much as the other two.
Right.
But I do mediumship. It's just not at the top of what I do.
Okay.
And I'm a Reiki master, but I just run energy in a session. Like if you need it, I just run it as part of the session.
Right. I feel like that's kind of where I am too. I don't like Reiki's no longer this separate thing that I have. It's just kind of infused into it.
Right. If the person needs it, I'm going to run it, you know. And so
wonderful. Well, what viewers don't know is we're not just going to talk about Stephanie's channeling and talk about Arya, but you will actually get a sample of the channeling and get to experience a little bit with Arya. So we'll bring her in for, you know, I don't know, however long feels good.
All right. You let me know and let her know when it's time to wrap up, and you know, and
sure.
And then let me do the count back so people can see on the recording, like how I count back, because that might be helpful for someone. You know, everyone's going to have their own way, but you know, and also you want to make sure I'm back.
Yes. I don't just want to be like, bye.
All right. Well, shall we bring her in now, or you want to wait?
No, we can go ahead and do it. I feel like we did the intro, and so let's.
Okay, cool. All right, let's do it. I intend Arya. This is Arya, the Arcturian Protectorate, is what you mostly know me for. Well, hello, Kristen, dear.
Hello, Arya. It's really cool to see you again.
Nice to meet you. I've been doing a lot with Ashtar lately, Ashtar commands. I've kind of switched gears. They've needed my help more. And so I've been doing a lot more with them, and a lot with the people from Venus, Venusian contingent, things like that. There's a lot going on your planet.
There is a lot going on.
And a lot of timeline convergences and things like that. So
yeah, it's been a fun ride the past 2 weeks.
It's still a fun ride.
Before we ask too many questions, Stephanie told me to ask you, because we were talking a little bit about humor and jokes and how we love how you can be serious, but you can also
I can be funny.
So what was the first joke you told us, what she told me to ask you?
All right. So, you know, in the beginning, I was trying to understand American humor. I still don't totally get it. Right. So this was the first joke I ever heard. Right. I haven't done this in a while. See, she put me on the spot. Okay. Do you want to hear a dirty joke?
Yes.
Say yes. Please say yes.
Yes.
All right. A white horse fell in a mud puddle. Ha ha. I just thought that was too funny. Like that was one of the first jokes I ever heard. I thought that is a white horse fell in a mud puddle. That's a dirty joke, right? So that was my attempt at American humor. But I just tend to be a little bit more witty. I think I'm more witty than I am. I'm not known for like telling jokes, really.
Right. Yeah, and I love jokes, especially what I call, you know, the dad jokes, which are kind of what you were saying. And of course, I can't think of any in the moment because I'm on the spot.
All right.
But that's okay. So yeah, so welcome to my podcast.
I like your podcast.
Talk about awakening and let's just talk about awakening and spiritual journeys and things like that. And so if you want to, Stephanie told us a little bit about you, but not too much, just kind of that you are an Arcturian, that she's been channeling you for like 15 years or so. But is there anything else you want to say about yourself?
Well, I guess it's what is it that you all would really want to know. So that's a long story. But anyway, so I've been on the planet since 1954. And I was in the original contingent that came with Eisenhower and Valiant Thor. So my husband was an ambassador and a diplomat, and I came along. I was an ambassador's wife. And I used to be a crackerjack pilot. I'm still a crackerjack pilot. And was known for doing diplomacy with my husband. And there was an incident, and he passed away. And that left me with the information, and I ended up staying. And I did a lot out in Vegas back in the 50s. And then a lot of high-level ETs, if we need to, we can be a walk-in spirit. So back in the 80s, I walked into South Africa, into the life of a woman, And then I walked in for about 10 years doing all the apartheid things and Mandela and all of that. And then I walked back out. And so for me, that's like I'm in a stasis pod, but then I walked in and then I walked back out again. And that's kind of where this accent came from. It's from that time I was over there. And it became more British over time. It used to be when she first started, she was much more South African. And over time, it's kind of dwindled back over to more British. And then so the way it usually works with someone like Stephanie or Esther Hicks is she had a life contract before she was ever born. And we were going to meet at some point. And channels have to have the right brain or the right connection. And Stephanie was in a boating accident when she was 14. So there's a part of her brain that's still in a coma. So I come up that pathway. And that's really interesting. We found that out. She got all excited because it made sense. Then the science of it made sense to her. Like, why is she such a natural? Why can't she just do it? That's why. So that day that Carol made that invite, I was actually retiring. I was on my way back to my clinic, and I was retirement party kind of thing. And they came in and they said, "Hey, there's these, do you want to?" This is sometimes our version of like reality TV, kind of like, let me go help those people on Earth. And I was leaving Earth. I was ready to go. And then lo and behold, here we go. And so, and in the beginning, I didn't like fun, Stephanie. I was like, okay, let me just get her on board a little bit. And then she got better. And then she got really good. And that's when I changed my plans and I postponed my retirement. And I was like, well, we could really help a lot of people. So that's how this all came about. Is that enough background? I think.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
I'm a blue Arcturian. If you Google it, you'll see what I look like. 3 fingers, 3 toes. I'm about 3.5 feet tall. Blue because my father was Syrian and they're blue.
Very cool. Yeah, I think it's interesting.
Isn't it nice to know you're part of a bigger universe?
And I think it's interesting too how you and Stephanie found each other and how you were kind of like, oh, I think I'm going to retire. I'm kind of done with Earth. And then nope, things changed.
It changed. And I'm glad it changed. And I met a lot of interesting people. And then I ended up helping other ET groups that I hadn't planned on and did negotiations. I'm still helping when I can and doing what I can. It's interesting.
Absolutely.
So what else would you like to know that I could tell you about that would be interesting to your viewers, do you think?
Well, a lot of things that we talk about on my podcast is kind of support during awakening in the spiritual journey. And so things have been kind of intense on our planet for a really long time. And for people who are newer to this whole awakening process and learning what's going on, and their gifts are coming online, maybe they're channeling or mediumship or Reiki or whatever it may be, what's kind of like some important things for people to focus on, and what kind of things can help them stay grounded when all these energies are so intense?
Well, first of all, there's 4 ways to ground, 4 easy ways. So shall we go with that? Let me share that. The easy ways, right? Because I like it all practical and simple as you can make it, right? So wearing the color red is very grounding, right? So you can wear underclothing that's red. People don't even see it, and it'll help ground you, right? Eating protein, grounding, very grounding to eat protein. It's very important. Walking barefoot on Mother Earth and connecting to the electromagnetic fields of the earth. That's really grounding, right? And then listening to loud rock music. It'll bring you back in your body. And so especially if you've been to an event, this is really important. You go to an event and you're very empathic. Let's say you go to Nathaniel's house and you've gone to an event and you're high as a kite after you've talked to me, and maybe you're not even in your body. So you want to like sit in your car and really get grounded before you drive. So you get yourself, listen to the loud music and get really in your body. You know what I'm talking about. It's really important. Make sure
all of those make sense. I'm actually wearing red right now. I have a red shirt on.
All right. Excellent.
Under my jacket, and it's been really cold to walk barefoot, but today I decided to go for a run anyway. And I mean, I had shoes on, but it felt so great to just be outside and have fresh air. And I love all of those tips because they're easy and they're practical, and it's not making anything complicated.
And if they're new on the journey, knowing what chakras are, learning about the chakra system, I feel like that's really important. The first book to read, if you haven't read it, is a lovely book called The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, because it's a great beginner book. It's not overwhelming. It's short. Doesn't take a lot to read it. And it just is really nice. And of course, back in the day, Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life, very popular book, was it one that was used a lot for people that are new.
Right.
And
Yeah, I love the
really
Four
trying to
Agreements. It's
that's
really
an
good.
excellent one, you know.
Yeah. And so what is we've mentioned the energies are intense on Earth. From your perspective, where you are as an Arcturian, kind of on the outside looking in, like what's going on from your perspective?
Sweetheart, I'm on the inside looking out.
On the inside, okay.
Because
Gotcha.
I'm near Earth. I'm not, you get what I'm, I understand what you're saying. I'm just that's where I make a joke. Like it's not really a joke. So I am kind of on the outside looking in. I interrupted your question. That was rude of me. Go ahead, continue. Ask away.
No, just kind of what's going on from your perspective. How do you see it? Because
So this is all about evolution of consciousness. This is the timeline where everybody's going to evolve their consciousness whether they want to or not, right? And it's very intense and a lot of pressure and a lot of change, a lot of decisions you have to make, right? So you have to see how fast you're going to move. And some people, they can't hold it. They can't hold the energy and they will die and transition out of here because they just can't hold the rate of change on Earth. It's too hard for them to adapt. They're not able to be very adaptable. So the two most important words in your lifetime are going to be resilience and adaptation. Those are the two. You got to be as resilient as you can and be as adaptive as you can be. Now, what's happening is a lot of people have become maladaptive. In other words, it's overwhelming. So they're doing things like eating a lot of sugar, gaining a lot of weight. And the weight is a way to buffer all the energy. It's like you're wrapped in a big pillow, right? Except it's fat. And that's not good for your health. But it's like the body's going to try to figure out, how do I deal with this, right? So you came for the ride. You came for the evolution of consciousness. So it's really important that you have a community and people that can come and help you on this journey. Does that make sense? And then another thing for those that are in the know or not is that you have something called the CERN Collider in Switzerland. And the CERN Collider in Switzerland, they've been doing time experiments and they've sort of created a lot of Mandela effects. Are you familiar with that term, Mandela effects? So it's kind of fragmented time. And we're trying to get back to what's called the optimal timeline, or the main branch, the main trunk of the tree. And when they started doing time experiments, all these different branches happened, or parallel realities. And that's problematic. And so the ETs came in as a way to say, okay, we really need to help. The original fragmentation, there wasn't CERN Collider. The original fragmentation goes back to when they dropped the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That's where the original fragmentation happened. Well, there was a third one too, because they dropped the one out in the desert. You know, I could talk about that, sweetheart, all day, but I think that's enough.
Oh, right. So what are some alternatives to adapting and evolving to the energy other than turning to, for example, eating a lot of sugar and gaining weight?
So, well, that's maladaptive. That's not the right way. So, highly suggested that you are on your feet, moving, going to the gym, not sitting, standing, walking, and that you are being as physical as you can be. And then keep your diet as clean and pristine as you can. So organic, whole foods. And what I have told many of Stephanie's friends and clients is nothing in a box or a bag. Like you want real food, like apples or rice or hamburgers or whatever, but not, if it's got a list of ingredients with 20 items in there, no, that's not going to work. The body's like, I don't know what to do with that. And so you want and good quality water. You need really good quality water to drink because you are mostly water. So it creates better life. And you see a lot of people that are on that bandwagon, right? And you've got to go with what fits your genetic code. Some people really like being a vegan or a vegetarian or go keto or whatever, but you've got to go with what feels right to you that fits your profile. And people have got to learn how to, listen to the body. And I think you're very disconnected as a species, and especially in the United States, from your body. Right? So
yeah, that's a really good point.
What now?
I said that's a really good point, being disconnected from our bodies.
Very disconnected. So you know this, you've heard me do this a lot. So I try to make it crazy simple. And then people just look at me like, well, that's just too simple. Get over it. All right. So here it is. You ready? Eat when you're hungry, sleep when you're tired, and move, move, move. That's the secret right there. But see, that's so simple. People are like, what?
It's got to be more complicated than that.
Right. But here's the problem. If you're going to eat when you're hungry, you have to know what hungry is. A lot of people don't know. If you're going to sleep when you're tired, you've got to know when the body is tired, when you need sleep or rest, or when you don't. So you're so disconnected. And if you start to move, you'll become more connected to your spirit, to your body, things like that. Because you are mind, body, and spirit. You kind of got to get the whole thing going.
Right. Yeah. And I actually did a video last night on that.
Right. You can't ignore one section or you're in trouble.
Absolutely. And I know for me, I've felt the push to exercise and to move more and to eat healthy, but I definitely feel like when you were talking about the sugar, like that's one of the things I have the biggest problem with is wanting to eat more chocolate and ice cream and, because I feel overwhelmed by the energies.
So I have suggestions for that if you'd like them.
Sure.
So switching to like berries, like blueberries, raspberries, things that still have a sugar content that are sweet.
Right.
A little bit of whipped cream. There's not a lot of calories in whipped cream. Use a little bit of whipped cream. Be careful about the caffeine in chocolate because that can really affect you. Go to more, if you need caffeine, green tea is a good idea, right? That's a good caffeine thing. And if you've had a lot of trauma in your life, sugar is going to be something you're going to be attracted to. So you kind of maybe have to wean yourself off. I wouldn't just go cold turkey. Your body get all mad.
Yeah. I've been eating a lot of things with dates in them because that's still sweet.
But dates. Dates are good. Dates will work. A lot of the protein bars are made with dates.
Yeah, I love the Lara bars. They're made with just dates and nuts and berries, so they feel really good.
You gotta kind of be kind with yourself, gentle with yourself. And then the other thing is about love. You got to be in the frequency and vibration of love and kindness, right? And accept love in all the packages in which it arrives. That's big.
I love that. Accepting love in all the packages that
comes in. Right, because sometimes it comes in weird looking packages.
It does.
And you're like, all right, I'll see how this goes.
Right. Absolutely.
What else would you like to know?
Oh, well, those are all really helpful. And like you said, very simple. I think it just comes down to slowing down and listening to what our bodies really need. I feel like a lot of times I think I'm hungry, but I'm really just thirsty.
Correct. It could easily be that. I
think that happens a lot for me personally.
Now, would your audience know about muscle testing and things like that, or no?
Some of them do, some of them don't. So if you want to talk about that, that's a good thing to talk about.
So muscle testing is your body knows answers to things you don't, right? So you can put your arm out, and someone can push on your arm and see whether you can hold your arm up, or you can do like a yes as your fingers lock together and no, your fingers go through, right? And so your body knows if you're allergic to a food. So Stephanie celiac, she cannot do bread, right? And so like you say it as a statement, bread is good for me. Like I'm doing it for Stephanie. So like bread is good for me. That's a big no, right? But red meat is really good for her. Bison is good for Stephanie. Boy, that lock, really, I can't even pull that out. So if you can learn to do it, it's a way to really kind of test your body and get answers from your own body through muscle testing as a way to help with food allergies. And these days you can get food allergy testing. So it's not like it was back in the day.
Yeah, I do the muscle testing every now and then, and it's really interesting. Sometimes it's like, do I want this chocolate? Yes. Do you, as my body, want this chocolate? And it's like, no, I don't want anything.
You have to get clear. You have to get clear. You don't do it as a question. You say it as a statement. Okay. Now, can you throw the results? Yes, you can. Not everyone can muscle test. For example, people with autism, they can't get clear enough to do it. So Stephanie's son, who has autism, he's tried. He can't. He gets like yeses every time. I don't care what you say. He's always getting.
Yeah, it reminds me of like the pendulum for yes and no. Like I feel like I move the pendulum. I don't feel like I just let it do.
So what other things do you think anyone would want to know about, would be helpful to your?
Yeah, I mean, now I'm wishing that I would have thought ahead and wrote some things down, but I did not. And so kind of
Well, I
running
can
out of
always
questions.
share. I can always share
Yes, sure.
about the time we're in.
Let's do that.
That's important. Well, okay. So I cannot predict your future.
Right.
You create it collectively, all of you, all 8 billion of you are
Mm-hmm.
creating collectively. And so it's a time for be prepared to change a lot. As in, you can make a plan, get up at 8 o'clock in the morning, and by the time you hit the end of the day, it does not happen. Tell them what happened with this is the second time we've attempted this. What happened the first time? Tell them what happened.
Oh, I had car troubles. My car
You
wouldn't
had car
start.
trouble.
Had to get a
Exactly.
new battery. It took like 2 hours.
Right. So that day it got changed, and that's happening to everyone. You have a plan, and then it goes a completely different way, and you have to be able to adapt to that. And you may never get back to where you were
Mm.
because those timelines, as they collapse, converge back into the main line, you're not going to be able to go backwards very well. And if you
Mm.
have to make a decision, sometimes these days you have to make it really quickly. So you got
Mm-hmm.
to really trust your energies. And if people are connected to their spirit guides, it helps. If they're connected to the etheric, then they're going to get extra help, extra guidance, things like that. I think that's really important. That if
Mm.
they don't know how to connect, that they learn to connect because it is a challenging time and there's a lot going on. And we are like 2023, right? If I'm looking ahead, 2023. I mean, it is going to be a time of continuing prices going higher and a lot of chaos and things like that. But, for people like you and Stephanie, never watch the news. Don't do that
Mm.
because
I never
that's
do.
someone else's negative view of reality. And you're creating a completely different world that's beautiful.
Right.
And you want to stay in that vortex, as Esther would say, right? You got to
Mm.
stay in the vortex you're creating. Don't go jump in the mud with them. Stay up here where everything's beautiful and then say, hey, come up here and play with me. But don't go get in the mud with them. They'll just pull you down in the mud. That's not good.
Mm. Yeah. I
Doesn't
mean,
help
again,
that.
it's simple.
Try to make it easy.
Mm-hmm.
But if someone were to have a session, then they can ask me anything from one time a lady her daughter lost her keys and she came to the session. She got 2 questions and her one question was, where are my daughter's keys? So it can be from that all the way up to major points of
Mm-hmm.
what's happening on the world and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
We're going
Yeah.
to be also a year of we could have more natural disaster kind of things. But that also
Interesting.
can be a unifying factor that can bind people together, helping each other.
It can. I remember growing up, my friend's house was it was like a tornado and it touched down and only a few houses on the street got like destroyed. And their house was one, like the roof collapsed in, there was flooding, everything was ruined. But that one event brought so many people together to help them go through all of the materials and what they could keep and what they couldn't keep and helping them organize everything that they could keep into storage units. It was just like the community
Right.
really came together to support them.
So it's a world of duality. You're going to have light, dark, up, down, and that's an important point that you're making.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any questions for yourself, Miss Kristen, that you're comfortable saying on the show?
No.
Yeah, put you on the hot spot.
I
Hot seat for all of that.
mean, I don't really have any questions at the moment. I feel like I'm doing really well overall, considering,
Excellent.
that I've recently lost my father and my grandmother.
You've had a
So,
lot of that. You have had that.
but
And I'm sure your father would be proud of you doing this show and reaching out to others and things like that.
yeah, he inspired me in a lot of ways I didn't realize that he did until recently.
Right. And you're
Mhm.
creating a community, and that's lovely.
Mhm.
That's one of the beautiful things of the internet, right? You can bring everyone together.
Yes,
And different points of view. You can have different points of view, and that's all right. And
Absolutely.
we've got to get back to where we're not so polarized. We've got to get back to where we can at least discuss and have a conversation. And it's okay that you believe one thing and I believe different. It's all right. Because we're all part of the same humanity, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's really important for people to kind of get back into that.
Yeah. And be open to connection with different people that don't always think the same as we do. And just because they don't think the same as we do, it doesn't mean they're wrong and we're right. It just means it's different.
Right. And you can use different words that are more familiar for people to try to explain things. and make it more understandable, that sort of thing. So, I help hold space. A lot of what the ETs are here to do is to hold space for all of you. We try not to interfere. We stop other darker beings from interfering. No, you
Right.
can't come to Earth. You don't get to interfere. It's like you're watching. It's like an incubator. Like we're watching all of you. Like where are they going to go and how are they going to grow and let's see what happens next.
It's like you're watching Survivor or something like the reality TV show Survivor.
Something like that. But you're going to come out the other side, and the next generation, they know why they're here.
They do.
The young
I can tell being around, like, I'm starting to volunteer at my church and working with the youth group, and they just have a different energy.
Well, they're
They,
also little
yeah.
adults. Like by the time they're
Mhm.
12 or 13, they're already an adult. They know why they came to Earth. They know what they're doing.
Mhm.
They're very, they know their mind. They don't want to be told what to do. It's
Mhm.
very interesting. And they just have a more community-based approach as a group. They're not as individualistic, if I mean, their point of view is like, okay, if the rents are crazy high, 4 of us will share an apartment. What's the big deal?
Mhm.
They're much more adaptable about the whole thing, and laid back. But there are some that are not. I mean, there's some that do struggle with depression, anxiety, and things like that. The more empathic, the bigger hearted ones. And
Yeah.
also that I call them the bridge kids, the kids that are between 20 and 30 right now. I've always called them the bridge kids, and they're the ones between the world that was and the world that is yet to be. And a lot of those kids are outrageously stressed out and are having a hard time trying to adjust because they don't really fit in either group. So if you're older than 30, you kind of set in your ways already. If you're younger, you're all in the new technologies and all that. But if you're in that bridge kids, they were brought up a certain way, and that's not how things are going to be going forward. And so it gets kind of crazy for them. It's hard for that group.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's kind of not, the students that I teach are a little bit younger than that. Some of them are 18, but they're not quite in their 20s yet.
Right, right. And
Mhm.
everything's changing. The old systems are going to break away. We're getting away from big systems like education, politics, government, and we're going to move over to more of a world approach, like through the internet, but also community-based approach. And so you're going to see big shifts in where people live, because if I can work from anywhere, I don't have to be in a big city, do I? Right? If I can work on the internet, right?
Mhm.
And so a lot of people are going to move back out into the country, and you're going to have more smaller communities. It's going to be interesting to see how everybody's moving around the chess.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, just taking it one day at a time.
one day at a time.
Along for the adventure.
Yes. So what other thoughts before I bring Stephanie back? Any last questions or thoughts? Anything you
No,
want me to
just
cover?
thank you so much for coming on the show and just answering some questions and kind of giving an overview of what's going on and what to expect, and really simple, practical ways that we can stay grounded and nourish our bodies in the process.
Absolutely. I love all of that. And now for those of you that are very empathic, and for those of you with second sight and that can see the energy as I come and go, this will be fun for all of them. Please put comments below. They can comment, yes?
They can, yeah. We're
All
not
right.
live right now, but the
No,
recording will
but
be posted. So
see it, it'd be
yeah.
interesting to see if they notice the energies. All right. So anyway, I'm going to count, I'm going to do my thing. Got to get Stephanie back. And I love talking to all of you. I hope some of you reach out and enjoy this experience. If it's the first time you've ever heard an ET come through someone, well, lucky you. And I'm going to go ahead and get ready to go. So with that, as always, remember to love yourself. And with that, I'm going to do my thing. So with that, I'm going to move over. Reunion 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Matthew, Andrew, William, and Ian.
Yes, gotta name all the kids and the grandkids.
Yep, my one little grandson. Gonna have him there. So did you have fun?
I did. It was like I kind of felt a little bit on the spot because I had a few questions, prepared, and then she kept saying, "What other questions? What other questions?" I'm like, I don't know. I should have wrote some things down, but I think it went fine.
It did go fine.
And I love how she was just so practice, so simple, practical things, reminders for what we can do during these times to help balance the energies and really support our mind, body, and spirit.
Because of how you said that the people that are watching your show are they're newbies maybe, and people that are new to energy and things like that. I think she kind of went back to the basics, so they'd have foundation, you know, I thought that was cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because I mean, my audience is kind of, some of the people are more kind of in our level of understanding, but then there's some people who are new. There's a little bit of everything, I think,
That's
within the
cool.
audience. So I
That's
wanted to, and I feel like even for me, who has been doing this work for a while, and just having those simple reminders was really good for me. I feel like I really needed that because I tend
awesome.
to make things too complicated,
Right, right, right.
when
Now,
really all I need to do is simple.
yeah, that's awesome. Do you want me to say the website or you can put it in the
Yes, you
bottom?
can, any of, well,
All right.
there will be links posted. But yeah,
Okay.
please go ahead and share any
But
information.
the website is intuitivewisdomtoday.com. So that's intuitivewisdomtoday.com. And you can, the email is intuitivewisdom@gmail. So if they wanted to reach out or ask a question or find out more about what I do, that's the best ways to reach me. And, you know, you've inspired me to, you know, technology is my nemesis. So I have to get over that. But if I can ever figure out in an easy way, like how to do YouTube, I might create a channel of my own. And
You
people have been trying to
should.
encourage me to do it. And it's seriously just the technology piece is the only reason I haven't done it. So, but I
Well,
may get into it and learn how to do
yeah,
it.
I think you should totally do that. Put yourself out there. I think you have a lot to share, and have been really helpful, I know, to me in my spiritual journey. And you're picking a time to start YouTube when things are like even easier to use. I feel like Zoom and YouTube are so much more user friendly now than they used to be. Because
I
I know
agree.
for me, when I first started doing all this technology stuff, I mean, it wasn't hard, but it didn't come so easily. Like, you felt like you had to do a lot more things, and now it's just a lot more streamlined.
I agree. It's a lot more streamlined. And I got the Zoom part down. I knew how to do that. No problems with that.
Mhm.
Got that part down. And
Yeah.
well, thank you so much for having me
You're
on your show.
welcome. Thank you for being here and
Enjoy it.
all that stuff. And thank you to all of those of you who are listening or watching. And once again, all of Stephanie's information, her website, her email will be in the description. So feel free to reach out to her for more information and maybe talk to Arya or get
Yeah,
some
be fun.
yeah.
All right, honey. Well, have a
Thanks,
great night.
everyone.
Enjoy it. Thanks for having me.